It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, March 25th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Clouds with peaks of sunshine today, high 53. Tonight and overnight, cloudy, low 45. And then Thursday for the Mets home opener, sun and clouds, high 70. Just beautiful. If you're walking out the door with us right now, 36 partly cloudy in Larchmont up in Westchester, 34 and partly cloudy in Morristown over in New Jersey, and it's 33 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
This is the Top 5 at 5.
The NTSB starts to assign blame in the LaGuardia crash. Bullets fly at a Coney Island McDonald's. Wow, the rent now really is too damn high. What's with all the dead birds on Long Island? And Mayor Mamdani is now a fast food worker hero. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. NTSB says it already has an early analysis of the cockpit and flight data recorder from the plane that hit a fire truck on a runway at LaGuardia on Sunday night. An NTSB investigator saying the final 3 minutes of the flight reveals the tower cleared the fire truck to cross the runway as that Air Canada plane was landing.
25 seconds, Truck 1 requested to cross runway 4 at taxiway Delta. At 20 seconds, the tower cleared Truck 1 and company to cross runway 4 at taxiway Delta.
NTSB Chair Jennifer Hammondy says there were two air traffic controllers in the top tower at the time, but there were conflicting information about what exact duties the two were performing. She says the controller in charge was doing the duties of two positions, and both controllers need to be interviewed now.
At 6 seconds, there was a pilot transfer of controls from one pilot to the other. And at 4 seconds, the tower again instructed Truck 1 to stop. At 0 seconds, the recording ended.
Yeah, so this is one of these, sometimes you got to wait months, even years to get all the information back about a plane crash. By the fact that they're giving us all this information so quickly, it means they're pretty clear that this is going to end up being control. In the control tower, there was some sort of issue. I mean, not 100% that, but that's what they're saying so far.
We have seen different information about how many certified professional controllers were in the facility. And we need to verify that.
People who are on that plane responding to that initial investigation that's been started by the NTSB and, of course, telling their story about how they got off this plane. One of them was Jack Cabot, who was on the flight, and he was returning to school after spring break.
It was utter terror. It felt very surreal. It felt like there was people crying, there was people bleeding. The whole front of the plane had been ripped apart.
He did say it was amazing to see people work together because you kind of assume the opposite's going to happen at a time like that.
There's certainly a sense of we're all in this together and we're all going to try to get off this plane together.
Yeah, so, and others are saying that the pilot and the co-pilot who unfortunately were killed in this accident were real heroes.
After the break, you just heard the loudest boom and we all just jolted forward out of our seats. All I heard was a screeching, him trying to brake to slow down or prevent the collision.
Yeah, meanwhile, the NTSB, of course, going to continue their investigation. 5:03, police say two teenage girls shot outside of McDonald's, Mermaid Avenue, Coney Island. This was about 4:30 yesterday. Police say a 16-year-old girl shot in the leg, a 14-year-old shot in the foot.
I saw the guy stand up by the door there, shooting. And time we come out, everybody from there was just running out.
Yeah, that was somebody on the scene. Investigators say they were shot outside of the McDonald's, but could not confirm if the shooter was inside the McDonald's. Now, witnesses say there were shell casings both in and outside of that Mickey D's.
And me and my daughter, we had just left here and got on the train when this happened. And we're on the train and like, oh, shoot, there's a shooting?
Now, this is one of these McDonald's where they get a lot of kids after school. And in fact, there's a sign on the door of the McDonald's that says anybody under the age of 18 has to be accompanied by an adult between the hours of 2 and 5 p.m., which suggests they've had problems in the past. In fact, this neighbor says he never goes to this McDonald's.
Because of all the kids, being wild and doing stuff in front of this McDonald's and inside this McDonald's, I haven't come here.
All right, so the good news is EMS took these two teens to NYU Langone Hospital in Brooklyn, where they are expected to recover. Police looking for a man who was wearing all black clothing, who ran towards Surf Avenue after the gunfire. A motive for the shooting, that not known. Police have not made any arrests. A teenager shot and killed in Brooklyn on Monday was a local high school football standout.
Police say it was Kamadri Coleman who died from a gunshot to his chest around 6 p.m. Monday in the NYCHA Sheepshead Bay public housing complex. The Daily News reports that police think it was an accidental shooting that killed the 16-year-old standout on the undefeated city champion Sheepshead Bay Sharks football team. Coleman, who also played basketball, was a student at United Charter High School for Advanced Math and Science. Another 16-year-old has been arrested, charged with manslaughter, criminally negligent homicide, and a weapons count. In New York, I'm Andrew Whitman.
Yeah, we're still doing way too many stories of teens shooting at other teens and teenagers being killed. Just awful. And then the story out of Long Island just gets more bizarre, but I guess they're putting it all together. Remember this woman who was splashed with acid? She was a Hofstra student back in 2021. Well, you might remember they made an arrest in that case. Maybe it was about a month ago. Well, yesterday they made another arrest in the case, and they say an ex-boyfriend is the second person who was involved in blinding this girl in one eye, disfiguring her as well.
Shaquille Koch was arraigned Tuesday in the attack on Nafia Ikram outside her home in Elmont. Nassau County DA Ann Donnelly says the two dated briefly while students at Hofstra University, and that when Ikram broke up with him, he thought that she'd been unfaithful. Donnelly said Koch hired Terrell Campbell, a high school friend, to hurl the acid in his ex-girlfriend's face while he drove the getaway car, blinding the 21-year-old woman in one eye and severely disfiguring her face. Campbell was arrested in February. Koch is pleading not guilty and is being held without bail. Lisa Ritchie, 77, WABC News.
WABC News Time 5:09. Let's go overseas. The president suggesting the war in Iran might be winding down, but we're seeing a fair amount of attacks overnight. U.S.-Israeli attacks on Iran continue even into this morning. That is, as Iranian missiles set off alarms across Israel and sent residents there rushing to shelters overnight. Bahrain, Saudi Arabia intercepted missiles and drones today as Kuwait announced a fire at its main airport caused by a strike on a fuel tank there. Israeli forces, they've been bombing Beirut this morning as they push further into southern Lebanon to go after those Hezbollah terrorists. President Trump, he's been expressing optimism, though, that the war in Iran could end soon.
The other side, I can tell you, they'd like to make a deal.
President says talks with Iran have been going well, saying the U.S. is dealing with the right people in the Islamic Republic.
I don't want to say in advance, but they've agreed they will never have a nuclear weapon. They've agreed to that.
And he says that Iran has offered a significant gift to the U.S. during these talks. Now, they're third-party talks. They're not talking directly through other nations.
They gave us a present, and the present arrived today. And it was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money.
All right. What is that present? He didn't tell us. The president also saying yesterday that the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, disappointed by the idea of a ceasefire. He says Hegseth and the Joint Chiefs of Staff Chair, General Dan Kane, are the only two people that seem quite disappointed that the war with Iran could be finished soon.
I said, Pete and General Raisin Kane, I think this thing's going to be settled very soon. Here they go. Oh, that's too bad. Pete didn't want it to be settled.
Yeah, so apparently Hegseth and General Dan Kane told the president they would rather not have a negotiated ceasefire with Iran just yet.
They were not interested in settlement. They were interested in just winning this thing.
We see ourselves as part of this negotiation as well. We negotiate with bombs.
Yeah, the president didn't listen to Hegseth, or at least is not seeming to anyway. Meanwhile, Iranian officials say vessels deemed non-hostile will be allowed through the Strait of Hormuz, critical waterway that carries roughly 1/5 of the world's daily oil supply.
Leaders informed the International Maritime Organization in a letter on Tuesday of the decision, as traffic through the narrow passage has declined since the outbreak of the war with Iran. Iran's foreign ministry said the country has acted in the exercise of its inherent right of self-defense, targeting U.S. military sites in the region and taking necessary and proportionate measures to stop its adversaries from using the strait to support hostile operations. I'm Mark Mayfield.
5/11, the partial government shutdown, it continues. That means TSA agents at the airports not being paid, numbers of them not showing up to work because they have to find other jobs. Others have quit. So ICE agents have been deployed to the airports, and that does seem to be helping. But California Governor Gavin Newsom, he's criticizing the White House for deploying those agents to the airport.
It's suboptimal to have ICE do the work that TSA.
Now, the president says he sent those ICE agents to the airports to ease the long lines, those TSA lines. We've just been hearing, hours waiting in line. And we have been hearing from people who have been going to the airport since this has all taken place, saying that, the lines are short.
I'm hopeful that the Trump administration can accept, yes, it appears that they had a deal to move this thing forward, and all the reporting on this suggests they did, but he decided against it.
The president, meanwhile, confirming that he's looking at a GOP deal that would split ICE from Homeland Security funding bill to end the airport chaos.
Well, I'm going to look at it, and we're going to take a good, hard look at it. I want to support Republicans.
So this proposal would fund all of the DHS minus ICE. Then Republicans would go on to fund ICE through the budget reconciliation process. That would allow Republicans to work around that Democrat filibuster, pass with 50 votes. Reports say Republicans will attempt to also tie the Save America Act, that voter ID measure, to that same reconciliation process. 5:13, Mark Wayne Mullins, now the Secretary of Homeland Security, which is involved with the TSA, of course. He was sworn into the job yesterday at the Oval Office by Attorney General Pam Bondi.
The president has entrusted me with this, and failure is not an option. And so thank you so much, Mr. President, for this opportunity. I won't let you down.
Mullen went on to pledge that he'll protect everyone, regardless of what state they're from. Of course, he takes over a Department of Homeland Security that's currently underfunded amid the partial government shutdown.
I don't care what color your state is. I don't care if you're red or you're blue. At the end of the day, my job is to be Secretary of Homeland and to protect everybody the same. And we will do that. The president watching on as Mullen took the oath of office, says he's the right man to lead Homeland Security.
I have no doubt that as he takes the helm of DHS, Mark Wayne will fight for Homeland Security, the United States, and securing the country and making it really strong and the way it should be.
While we're down in D.C., Delta Airlines announcing yesterday it's going to suspend its special congressional desk service for lawmakers.
The Atlanta Journal-Constitution reports that Delta will suspend the service which provided dedicated flight assistance to members of Congress, including allowing them to skip the line at security checkpoints. The change comes days after the Senate unanimously approved a proposal to end the preferential treatment lawmakers receive. It also comes as the backlog at airports nationwide have worsened in recent days as TSA employees go without pay due to the ongoing partial government shutdown. I'm Matt Mattinson.
In a moment, we'll tell you how sour the job market is. And man, it's really sour, especially for college grads. We'll get into that in just a moment. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. And good morning, Justin Ellick.
Good morning to you, Noam Al-Laden. How long have we been waiting for this day? Still very long winter, that is. Still pretty cold outside, but today you are getting Major League Baseball and meaningful baseball that, baby. The Yankees get their 162-game slate underway tonight out in San Francisco against the Giants. It's an 8:05 p.m. first pitch. It is the only professional baseball game in action tonight. You'll get the rest of the opening day slate tomorrow, but tonight it's just the Yankees and the Giants on Netflix. So you got to get Netflix if you want to watch this game. Most people do already, but if you don't, go out and get it, and then you can cancel that subscription come tomorrow once the game's over.
Right, but then then that means you paid like $9 for the game.
You get the subscription for the rest of the month probably, and then you enjoy Netflix for the month because you had to watch this one Yankee game. So there you go. And then Max Fried will get the start for the Yanks, opening day starter there, and Logan Webb will face him, be his opponent for the Giants there. And then tomorrow, 1:15 p.m. first pitch for the Mets and the Pirates out in Citi Field. Mets starting the season at home. Freddie Peralta will get the start there against the ace in Pittsburgh, Paul Skeens. Head to the hardwood at the Garden. Jalen Brunson scored 32, including 15 in the fourth quarter, and the Knicks beat the New Orleans Pelicans 121-116 for their 7th straight win. Karl Anthony Towns and OG Anunoby each added 21 points for the Knicks, who pulled within percentage points of the Boston Celtics for second place in the Eastern Conference. Towns also grabbed 14 rebounds. The Knicks have feasted on a soft part of their schedule, beating Indiana twice, Utah, Brooklyn, and Washington during the winning streak, which came entirely against teams with losing records. They will get tested on a 4-game road trip that begins tomorrow at Charlotte and features stops at NBA champion Oklahoma City and then Houston. And on the hardwood tonight, the Nets, they're back at it out in Golden State against the Warriors. That's a 10 p.m. tip-off there. On the ice last night in Elmont, the Islanders fell to the Blackhawks 4-3. And out in Dallas, the Devils beat the Stars 6-4. Tonight, the Rangers, they're back on the ice out in Toronto against the Maple Leafs. That is a 7:30 p.m. start in that one. That is your Sports Noam, and I'm Justin Alec on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 519. Democrats celebrating a win in President Trump's backyard. Emily Gregory won a state house seat special election last night, District 87. Trump's home at Mar-a-Lago is in the district. Gregory got 51% of the vote. She beat a Republican. This was her first run for office. After her win, she told local reporters that she felt like she was having an out-of-body experience, and she encouraged anybody else who wants to make a difference to get off the sidelines and run. A jury in New Mexico says Meta, who's the owner of Facebook, Instagram, failed to safeguard its apps from online predators that have been targeting kids. A judge, Brian Bischeld, announcing the verdict last evening.
Did Meta violate the Unfair Practices Act by engaging in an unfair or deceptive trade practice? The jury answers yes.
The ruling follows weeks of testimony that pitted the state against the social media giant in a civil case that could impact several similar cases across the country.
How many willful violations did Meta commit by engaging in an unfair or deceptive trade practice? The jury's answer is $37,500.
Yeah, and they'll have to pay for it. Meta must now pay $375 million in damages for violating New Mexico's Unfair Practices Act. Meta, of course, is going to appeal that ruling. Supreme Court taking up a high-profile case yesterday involving a government policy that turns away asylum seekers before they reach the U.S. border with Mexico. Representing the White House, the assistant to the U.S. Solicitor General Vivek Suri.
Respondent's position is that when Congress said arrives in the United States, it meant stopped outside the United States. That theory is wrong for the simple reason that it defies the statutory text.
The policy was enacted during the Obama administration, was significantly broadened during the first Trump administration. It's no longer in place, though, after being rescinded by President Biden back in 2021.
Respondent's position is that when Congress said arrives in the United States, it meant stopped outside the United States. That theory is wrong for the simple reason that it defies the statutory text. You can't arrive in the United States while you're still standing in Mexico. That should be the end of this case.
Yeah, it sounds like a technicality. However, the Trump administration calls it a critical tool for addressing the surges in immigrants at the border, and court observers say the justices appeared somewhat sympathetic to that argument. 522, the Supreme Court set to rule on if mail-in ballots received after Election Day should be counted. More than a dozen states have laws allowing this, including Texas, which some feel is problematic.
There's the potential for fraud. There's potential for somebody changing their ballot after the election.
Texas attorney, legal expert Jeremy Wilson there says that in the 2024 election, nearly 750,000 votes in Texas were counted via mail-in ballots that arrived after Election Day.
And so it seems the Supreme Court may be poised to agree with the conclusion of the Fifth Circuit and strike down the statute.
Yeah, the High Court's ruling on that expected later this spring. WABC News Time 523. Americans' outlook on the job market now is increasingly sour.
A new Gallup survey shows 28% of American workers think right now is a good time to find a job, and 72% say it's a bad time. The survey falls in line with the Federal Reserve's recent report showing that while the U.S. economy is in good shape, the labor market remains sluggish. The new survey was taken during the last 3 months of 2025. In mid-2022, Gallup reported 70% said it was a good time to find work. I'm at Mattinson.
Yeah, it's a huge difference. You talk to people, they say, no, I'm not going anywhere because there's no job to go after. So, of course, then there's no job to be taken if people stay where they are. 523, a federal judge says she's troubled by the Pentagon's move to classify American AI company Anthropic as a supply chain risk.
Anthropic is challenging that designation in court after the War Department also ordered that contractors cut ties with the company, citing concerns over national security. The Pentagon has argued that Anthropic wants a veto over its use of the company's Claude AI. Anthropic says that even if the federal government doesn't want to work with it, it shouldn't be blacklisted. U.S. District Judge Rita Lynn said Tuesday it looks like the government's looking to cripple Anthropic. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
Let's head down to Texas, where crews at the southern tip of the Lone Star State have begun installing 17 miles of buoys in the Rio Grande to prevent illegal immigration.
Over the last several weeks, we were made aware of the fact that these buoys were being placed.
That's Cameron County Judge Eddie Trevino. He says the feds don't ask permission. They just get to work. The next generation floating border wall, it's made up of these giant plastic cylinders, which are apparently impossible to climb over.
The federal government doesn't really inquire as to our concern, in addition to the fact that the wall has been constructed along the river.
Yeah, so these more than 500 miles of buoys are being funded by President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. Authorities in southern Arizona investigating a possible incident at Nancy Guthrie's home 3 weeks before she was abducted. Correspondent Liz Kreutz reports that as the investigation continues, members of the local community continue to hope that she'll somehow be found.
At one of Nancy's favorite Tucson restaurants, El Charro, all servers are now wearing a symbol of hope. These yellow ribbons made by two women from out of state. It's something they did in 2003 when Lacey Peterson went missing, and in 2005 for Natalie Holloway.
84-year-old mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie, believed to have been taken from her home early hours February 1st. Ray Flores, he's the owner of this El Charro restaurant in Tucson, says these servers are wearing these ribbons and getting positive reaction.
If it can be worn by people to remind people to keep hope alive, to see something, say something, to remember Nancy and every missing person, then we're happy to wear them.
Yeah, Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos says, and he confirms that the department is now looking into a number of clues, but so far don't have a lot to go on. 526, First Lady Melania Trump in the middle of hosting a 2-day global summit in D.C. The event is aimed at empowering children through education and technology.
Beginning today, let's accelerate our new global alliance, this bond, to positively impact the progress of our children.
It's called the Fostering the Future Together Summit. It's at the State Department, including 45 nations, 25 different tech companies.
Our coalition's mission is to empower children by providing greater access to technology and education. This is a historic moment in time.
Education, online safety have been really big key issues for the First Lady. A quadruple amputee who's a professional cornhole player, is accused of a deadly shooting in Maryland. And yes, you heard me right.
The Charles County, Maryland Sheriff's Office says Dayton Weber, who has no hands or legs, was driving in La Plata Sunday night when he allegedly shot 27-year-old Bradrick Wells during an argument. Wells was in the front passenger seat. Two other passengers ran off after authorities say Weber pulled over and asked them to help him pull the victim out of the car. They refused. Weber was arrested in Charlottesville and faces first-degree murder charges. Video on his YouTube page, verified by NBC News, shows him firing a gun during target practice. I'm Michael Kastner.
That's crazy.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, March 25th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Clouds with peaks of sunshine today. The high going to be 53. Tonight and overnight, cloudy, low 45. And then Thursday, it is the home opener for the Mets, and it's going to be beautiful. Sun and clouds, high 70. If you're walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 36 partly cloudy in Larchmont up in Westchester. 35 and partly cloudy in Morristown over in New Jersey. And it's 34 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. WABC News Time 541. Remember Jimmy McMillan, who ran for mayor all those years ago, and his phrase was, "The rent is too damn high"? It is unbelievable. Rents in Manhattan and Brooklyn reportedly soared to an all-time high last month. The median rent here in Manhattan, $5,000 a month in February. In Brooklyn, it jumped to $4,300. This according to the 2026 rental market report that was released by the Corcoran Group. And people are feeling it. They say they just can't believe how things have spiraled. Bigger than usual, they say.
More of my friends are looking into buying now because it's actually just, or owning, it's just more affordable in some ways to have a lower mortgage monthly payment.
The apartment that I'm in, it's a 2-bedroom apartment, and with rent stabilization, it's one price, but the apartment above me, say, is a regular market rate. Yeah, you'd be talking $5,000. How do people do it?
Yeah, I have the same question. Jonathan Miller is an expert real estate appraiser in New York and Connecticut. He spoke to Eyewitness News.
This is becoming this sort of, vicious cycle. Affordability is being challenged not only by higher mortgage rates on the purchase market, but rising prices in the rental market.
Yeah, I mean, just insane. $5,000. They get you a studio. $5,000 here in Manhattan. I don't know how people are doing it. A homeless man on parole tried to rape a woman in Central Park. Thank God he was stopped by some good Samaritans in the area. 30-year-old Lateef Caldwell allegedly attacked this 45-year-old woman. This was near 109th and East Drive after he was convicted for a similar assault and was back out on the streets. Thankfully, these bystanders, some people just happened to be in the park at the time, came to save this woman. And, she's going to be okay. But, of course, this guy tried to rape her.
Unfortunately, when you're a woman, stuff like this happened everywhere. You always have to be very careful of what's around you.
And I do see the presence of police officers around, so it must have been just unfortunate that this person, this should happen.
Caldwell, who lives in a Ward's Island homeless shelter, charged with attempted rape, attempted sexual assault. He was released on parole less than a year ago in connection to a similar sex abuse case from 2022. In that incident, he allegedly tackled a 23-year-old woman to the ground and attempted to pull her pants down. Yet this guy was back on the streets. Go figure. 544. Permission to use the bathroom. Well, it's tougher in some New York City schools. Listen to what they're doing now. New digital hall passes allow teachers to more closely monitor how long a student is spending in the bathroom and who else has requested a bathroom break at the same time. Remember back in the old days, you either had to, there was like a pass, or maybe they gave you like some big wooden stick that had the key to the bathroom on it. Those days are gone. The tech called Smart Pass, it allows educators to track where students in the school have gone for how long, making it easier, they say, to disrupt bathroom meetups. But some students, they're up in arms over what they see as an expansion of surveillance state. It's taken, they say, micromanaging to a whole nother level. So one student, an 18-year-old, he's hired the ACLU to represent him. He says, this is nonsense, this Smart Pass. He says they shouldn't be able to follow what I'm doing when I go to use the bathroom. The people who have created this technology say it's amazing. They say it helps thwart hangouts in the bathroom, vaping, and vandalism. And the idea, at least in the New York City school system, is they want to expand this. The ACLU and the student, they're going to try and stop it. In a moment, we'll tell you about a no-good NYPD sergeant. We'll get to that story in a moment. But first, 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. And here's Justin Ellick.
Thank you, Noam Layden. We'll start with a look ahead to tonight at 8:05 p.m. That is your first pitch on Netflix for the Yankees and the Giants out in the Bay Area, San Francisco. Max Fried will get the opening day start for our Yanks against San Francisco's Logan Webb. And then tomorrow, 1:15 p.m. in the afternoon, the Mets starting their 162-game slate at home at Citi Field. They'll welcome in the Pittsburgh Pirates to start the year. Freddie Peralta will get the opening day start there against Pittsburgh ace Paul Skeens. Head to the hardwood at the Garden. Jalen Brunson scored 32, including 15 in the fourth, and the Knicks beat the Pelicans 121-116 for their seventh straight win. They pulled within percentage points of the Celtics for second place in the East. They've also feasted on the soft part of their schedule throughout this winning streak, beating Indiana twice, Utah, Brooklyn, and Washington during the streak, which came entirely against teams with losing records. They will get tested on a 4-game trip coming up. It begins tomorrow with Charlotte and features stops at NBA champion Oklahoma City and Houston. And tonight on the hardwood, the Nets are back in action against the Warriors out west. That's a 10 p.m. start there. On the ice last night in Elmont, the Islanders lost to the Blackhawks 4-3. And out in Dallas, the Devils, they beat the Stars 6-4. Rangers back out there tonight in Toronto against the Maple Leafs. That's a 7:30 p.m. start in that one. That's your Sports Noam. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:48. It is probation for a former NYPD sergeant who helped a disgraced former union leader embezzle money.
Dennis Osterman sentenced to 2 years probation from a federal judge Tuesday. She could have sentenced him to a year in prison. Osterman launched a health benefit business that was used to get money to Ed Mullins, the former head of the Sergeants Benevolent Association, which Mullins pocketed. Mullins was sentenced to 2 years in prison for embezzlement in August 2023. Osterman also lied on tax forms, disguising the payments to Mullins as legal fees. In New York, I'm Andrew Whitman.
Out to Long Island, where an ex-boyfriend, the second person arrested now in the 2021 Long Island acid attack that left a 21-year-old woman blind in one eye and disfigured, Shaquille Koch. He was arraigned yesterday in the attack on Nafia Ikram outside of her home in Elmont. You remember the story? She was a Hofstra student who was blinded by this acid splash. And for 4 years, really 5 years, they couldn't figure out who was behind it. They made an initial arrest of the person who threw the acid, and now they say the ex-boyfriend was the one who asked this guy to throw the acid. Nafia says she went on 2 dates with Coke 5 years ago.
He's a demon, number one. And number two, the fact that he thinks that he had the right to do that in itself, you're delusional and you're diabolical.
Nassau County DA Ann Donnelly says the two dated briefly while students at Hofstra University, and that when Ikram broke up with him, he thought she had been unfaithful.
Now, I don't know if I believe in karma, but I believe in justice, and justice has come knocking for Mr. Koch.
Yeah, well, it took 5 years, but thankfully they caught up with him. Donnelly says Koch hired Terrell Campbell, a high school friend, to hurl acid in his ex-girlfriend's face while he drove the getaway car. That happened 5 years ago.
I told the cops this from day one, and I guess they didn't have enough evidence to, lock him up.
Yeah, so she suspected that this guy might be behind, but the attack, in fact, that's why she said she didn't go on date 3 with him. She also thought for a long time maybe it was a family member who just hated her. Thankfully, it's all connected for her now. Campbell was arrested back in February. Koch pleading not guilty. Here was his lawyer as reporters chased him out of the courtroom yesterday.
The most important thing was not guilty, and this is a presumption of innocence that the prosecutor talked about, guys.
Yeah, of course, he will get a trial. 5:51 while we're out on Long Island. Dozens of dead geese discovered along the shoreline in the Hamptons could be a result of a bird flu outbreak. We've seen this in other parts of Long Island. There are now signs of warning to the public to avoid direct contact with these birds. If they see them on the beach dead, don't touch them. Keep your pets away. Matthew Thompson's a lifelong resident of the East End, and he says it's all shocking to see hundreds of dead birds this year amid, they think, what is a bird flu outbreak.
I've never seen the geese affected like this. I've never seen any ducks affected like this. It's terrible seeing all of them lying on the ground like that, and, maybe the disease will spread if foxes foxes, start eating them and raccoons and things like that.
Yeah, it is a chain reaction. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation has received at least 700 reports of deceased birds in Suffolk County. That's just since January. With at least 16 positive cases on Long Island, there have been hundreds of dead geese on the shoreline at ponds and lakes. A local Hamptons deputy clerk, he's been helping with the cleanup efforts. He says the cold weather may have affected the spread of the disease, and he's hoping the warm weather may mean that it won't be as transferable, that not as many birds will be found dead. But now they're like triple bagging the carcasses when they find them on the beach, using gloves to pick them up to avoid direct contact. That's really why you want to keep any kind of dog that you're walking around the beach anywhere near from these animals.
Well, when we did the bird count this winter, there were 10,000 Canada geese, so we've lost 10% of them.
That's a lot.
They'll come back, but it's not great.
To see that, we really got to step in and check what we can do.
Yeah, it's just sad to see all these dead carcasses on the beach. 5:53. New York State Comptroller Thomas DiNapoli reminding you that you may be eligible for some unclaimed funds.
He says New York had close to $10 billion in lost money as of last month. Much of it comes from old bank accounts, uncashed checks, and stolen gift cards. Money that was considered abandoned and turned over to the state. A lot of it is owed to residents who have passed away, but you may have a right to it if you're an heir. DiNapoli says to see if you're eligible for anything, go to the Comptroller's website and try typing in your name or relatives' names. And thanks to a change to state law that went into effect last year, you'll automatically get a check in the mail if you're owed $250 or less. In New York, I'm Kristen Marks.
By the way, I did this once before. This was when I was living in South Carolina, unclaimed funds, and I got a couple $1,000 that was owed to me. So you never know. You want to go check it out. Governor Cheryl over in New Jersey says she wants to overhaul New Jersey Transit.
I'm signing an executive order, the first of many steps that I'll be taking to build a better New Jersey Transit, a better system with better service and a better rider experience.
Oh, boy. How many times have we heard that before from every governor in New Jersey? She's giving the agency 45 days to submit a comprehensive plan that'll include repairing station elevators and escalators, brightening lighting to cleaning blitzes. Also, it would be nice if the trains ran on time, because that doesn't seem to happen too often.
It serves over 500,000 passengers a day. That's 230 million trips a year and $13 billion in economic benefit annually to our economy. But right now, New Jersey Transit riders aren't being served as well as they should be.
Well, we hope she's successful, because it doesn't seem like any other governor, Republican or Democrat, has been. She's also calling for the overhaul of the New Jersey Transit app and website, by the way, which I've had is awful. Sometimes it tells you the bus or train's going to be there. It's not even close. 5:55, while we're in New Jersey, police trying to figure out what took place right in front of the Hackensack police station. This was about 3 o'clock yesterday. A group of teens stabbed another teen and then ran away.
I'm sure that they were trying to move towards people, and this is a heavy traffic area, that maybe he was looking for help.
I don't know if he was trying to get away from the person who did it.
Those were some eyewitnesses who owned businesses in the area. They saw the group of teens mulling around, and then they saw the teens running away.
I realized that the street was cordoned off. There was 2 police vehicles there.
Yeah, we checked in this morning. Apparently, the kid that was stabbed is in stable conditions, going to be okay.
It's pretty well lit around these parts. So I definitely do think, the first thing that goes through my mind is that it could have been interpersonal violence.
I always see the kids walking from school. So it's really sad that this happened. And this is really a safe street.
Yeah, so far, no arrests have been made. And right here in the city, Mayor Mamdani announcing yesterday that he has secured $1.8 million in restitution for fast food and retail workers. The city's Consumer and Worker Protection Commissioner, Sam Levine, says 830 workers will get compensation from the retailer Theory, a Staten Island Taco Bell, and some Dunkin' Donut franchises for violating the city's Fair Work Week law.
The workers didn't have predictable schedules. They were forced to close the store, then open it the next day without compensation.
Mayor Mamdani says it was a complaint by one worker that started the process of holding the companies accountable and putting up to $10,000 back back into workers' pockets.
The point of this is that if you take this step, it makes our city a fairer city, a more just city.
Yeah, they didn't say how they're going to hand out this cash, but they will. And then I was looking at the mayor's press schedule for today. So he has a press conference at 11 o'clock talking about making an affordable housing announcement of some sort in Brooklyn. And then at 2:30 p.m. today, guess who's on his schedule? He's going to meet with WABC owner and operator John Katzimatidis. So we're going to have to ask him what that meeting's about beforehand and maybe afterwards what the two talked about. That should be awfully interesting. 5:57.
Yes, it should.
Yeah, are you going to be part of that meeting?
Not a chance.
Oh, okay.
I wonder if my name will come up, though.
Oh, you wonder if your name's going to come up? Are you kidding me?
Is there any way that creepy mayor doesn't bring Sid up, the guy that owns the station? Is there any way?
There's two strategies. One is he could and say, listen, you got to rein him in. Or he wants to show that you're not a bother and he doesn't think about you, and then he won't bring you up. Right? So
he's too late for that, though. He's already mentioned me a bunch of times and cried at a press conference because of me. So how could he act now like I don't bother him?
I don't know. We'll have to ask John. Are you having John on this morning? Maybe we can get a preview of this meeting. See what
may not be a bad idea. He's not scheduled right now,
think you have to schedule
my man
him.
John, but maybe we'll throw him on for a couple of minutes to find out what this is all about.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?